Welcome back to Monday Musings, a casual conversation about culture and theology. I'm Justin Ely.
And I'm Daniel Chen. We're a couple guys talking about some stuff.
For 200 episodes, we're a couple guys talking about some stuff.
Can you believe it?
We're going to reflect on that 200th anniversary at the end of the podcast. But we want to get into our topic of the day, which is the shooting in Minneapolis. So you're probably aware, but just a few days ago, on January 7th of 2026, a U.S. Immigrations and Custom Enforcement ICE agent fatally shot a 37-year-old woman named Renee Good in South Minneapolis during an ICE enforcement operation near East 34th Street and Portland Avenue. Federal officials said the agent acted in self-defense after a goods vehicle posed a threat. Video evidence posted by different cell phone cameras essentially ended up trickling out on social media. It led some people to agree with that claim and some people to disagree. The shooting, which occurred near the site of George Floyd's 2020 killing, sparked large protests locally and nationwide. Debates over federal law enforcement, transparency of the use of force, disputes between city, state officials, and the federal government, and ongoing investigations into the incident and its legal ramifications. So that's where we're at. We're gonna take this from a little bit of a different angle here as we discuss this. We're going to get less into the back and forth. We will do a little bit of that. But we want to talk about four main topics.
You're saying people don't view this all the same way?
Yeah, it's shocking to some that people don't view this the same way. It's hard to believe, I know.
I know. You know, one of the things that is just made this so apparent is how huge the divide.
People went immediately into their corners.
Yes, in our country, especially online, you know, and I'll say like in real life too, but especially on the internet. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it just shows how huge the chasm between people's
the right word. Yeah,
between people's views.
I mean, people saw the same video and came to radically different conclusions.
I mean, like,
see what it did right there.
Not just see, but if you don't see it this way, you must be blind or an idiot. Yeah. Like that kind of language. And I saw it both from...
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into some of the back and forth. We want to talk about four main things. We're going to put under the categories the image, the sword, the tongue, and the truth. So this is a sermon-style four-pointer, but in a podcast form. So...
You're good at that. You're good at the short punchy points.
Short punchy points. Yeah. So let's get into it. Let's start with the image. Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. I think it's really tragic how much dehumanizing language has been used throughout this incident, on both sides, about both sides, right? So there have been really dehumanizing language used about the officer. Murderer was thrown out really quickly, kind of treating him in almost animal-like ways. Then there's been really dehumanizing words used about the woman, in a variety of settings, and there are some. So those who want to are kind of on the side of the officer, like it was a justified killing of self-defense. It appears that some on that side aren't quite as quick also to say like, and it's a tragedy that a woman lost her life. Like we're dealing with a human being here.
Yeah.
So I think we've lost that Imago Dei kind of emphasis, which you're dealing with two human beings here, and I think that's significant.
Yeah, and if you listen to our podcast a while, you'll be like, wow, they're talking about Imago Dei again. And I'm like, we'll stop talking about it once we all treat each other like Imago Dei.
Yes. So we will not be stop talking about it until Jesus comes again.
I will say with this that's interesting is the way a lot of people, like liberals, talked about Charlie Kirk.
Sure.
I've seen a lot of Charlie Kirk be used as, see, you guys are hypocrites type thing. But I find in my own heart, it's easy for me to do the same thing and just make people abstract.
Yes.
And when I'm calling out is that
you people, you people always respond this way to this thing.
Yeah. And to say, like, we were calling for people to view, and I know the situation is completely different. Yeah. But like the Charlie Kirk thing, to remember that he was a person made in the image of God, and that he had a family. And what we're saying is both this officer and this woman were both made in the image of God too. And that's where we need to start. Now we can get into the facts, and I'm not saying like, don't call out hypocrisies or whatever, but I'm saying start with the image of God.
This was an image bearer, and it's tragedy. Second is the sword. And so I feel like most people probably agreed with that first point. This is the part where we're going to start probably diverging a little bit, but we'll see. Let's start with just reading scripture. Hopefully we can just agree with that.
Yeah.
Romans 13, 1-7. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval. For he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Romans 13, 1-7. So we see throughout Scripture, this starts kind of, I'd say, in a almost modern sense. Government is instituted at the Noahic covenant after the flood. And here Paul says in Romans 13 that the government carries the sword. What's the sword? The sword is the right to enact justice.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of have, in a sense, like externally, you've got the military, internally is the police. It's like a very simplified, overly simplified form. But the government has the sword, and we are called to submit to the government.
Yeah.
And Paul's essentially saying here, and it's interesting, he's writing to Christians in the Roman Empire. It's not exactly friendly to Christians. And he's saying, if you don't want to fear those who are in authority, then do what is good and you'll receive their approval. When you think about the context with which he wrote that, it's really fascinating. But I think, look, you can make a Christian case for civil disobedience. I think read a lot of Dr. King's writings. I think he does a really good job fleshing that out, how you get there on a scriptural basis and what's in bounds, what's out of bounds. So I'm not saying Christians have to be subject to unjust laws. There's a way to deal with that. That's another podcast for another time.
Yeah.
But a point that is worth making is this woman was made in the image of God, and we're also called to submit to the sword of the government.
Yeah.
That does not mean that there's not such a thing as police brutality. That does not mean everything the government does is right. That does not mean, there should be no investigation of anything like this. But that is saying, when a police officer pulls you over, you are to pull over and to respect that authority. When a police officer tells you to get out of the car, you're to submit to that authority.
Yeah.
So the sword, it's a real thing. It's been given to the government by God himself, and we're to submit to that. That's what Romans 13 says.
Yeah, and I would add to that too, there's a lot of talk about like, well, police officers or ICE agents should get, you know, this kind of training and that kind of training or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's easy to say from your keyboard.
Sure.
But do you know what it's like to be an officer of the law? Mm-hmm. Every time you pull someone over, you have no idea if they have a gun on them.
Yep.
That's a whole, I mean, even with training, I mean, that's a whole nother level of like, I just think it's important for people to realize that point. It's easy to say what the cops should do from our keyboards. But you know, unless we've served in it, like, it's not that you can't hold an opinion, but there's only so much that it's like that I'm going to listen to you if you've never served.
What do you know? What do I know? Yeah.
I have a friend that's a police officer online that, you know, I don't take his word as law, but he gives really interesting perspectives. And I tend to listen to him a little bit more because he's served. He knows what it's like.
Right.
You know, and I would say even like with this particular shooting, it's like one, like those ICE agents were given an order from, it's not like that guy who pulled the trigger is like in charge of giving orders of who they're arresting and
You're
stuff.
saying they're under authority themselves.
Yeah.
They were sent in.
And I'm very against governments using any type of military or police to like tyrannically attack or subject the citizens. But that's not what's happening here. I just think objectively it's not. Like they're not, ICE isn't going after any citizens that you know, that I'm aware of, that they exist to deport illegals who are already breaking the law. And by getting in their way, they're already, I would say, breaking Romans 13 here. And then also, and we'll get kind of it to the end as well. If I'm not mistaken, the car did hit the officer, right?
That's my understanding.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
I mean, like, even at that point, regardless of intentions on either side,
Right.
I think, I mean, there's an element of how does the officer know her intentions? She's in a car.
Sure.
You know, all he knows is he got hit.
Yep.
And let's be honest, it's not like when there's protesters and police, it's like they're not singing Kumbaya. That's not how these...
Right. These things get heated quickly.
And then there's a history.
Yep.
And not only that, the fact, you know, I didn't know this, but, you know, you reading that it was close to the George Floyd thing. I'm like, man, this is just a powder keg.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And if nothing else, like, as I read more into it, I'm like, well, like, what's surprising in some ways is that this hasn't happened yet with everything I've read, at least online, about just the tensions going on. And
yeah, it's like, look, okay, we can debate immigration policy. Let's have the debate. We can debate, should Trump be using ICE agents this way? Okay, we can have that debate. We can debate, should he have been standing in front of the car? Should he have been, should he have been on the side of the car? All this, what about this? What about this? That's fine to talk about that. But my point is, can we agree as Christians at base level? So we can have different conversations about immigration policy, how that's being enforced, how that affects people, the right way to protest, the wrong way to protest. All that's like fair game discussions. But can we agree as Christians, we're called to submit to the governing authorities, and there is a certain way that should look when we are interacting with people that are in that authority, police officer, judge, different capacities, different ways. And we should, we should submit to them. That's Romans 13.
That's what it says.
That's what it says.
Yeah. And I think it's okay to admit that a loss of life is always tragic.
Yeah.
And say what we just said.
Yeah.
I think, I'll say this too. If you're celebrating this, I think that's wrong. That this happened. Don't do that. That breaks the image of God. Mm-hmm. But it's okay to hold on to Romans 13 and say, let's understand. We've just gotten into our culture more and more doesn't understand authority.
Yeah.
It doesn't understand like power dynamics. It doesn't understand like just from a general sense, not even a biblical sense. And I think people forget like, no, like the government does have authority, some sort of authority over our lives.
Yep.
And so do police officers.
Yep.
And if there's bad police officers, there's ways about going about it. And sadly, in a broken world of sin, not all of those police officers, if they're bad, will be held accountable on this side of eternity. I mean, that's just the truth. We have to, they will be accounted for in eternity.
Yep.
We have to live within that truth, but we also have to live in the truth that there's many, 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 and I would argue many more good officers
absolutely
that hold that authority that we need to respect.
Yeah.
And that we need to honor and to understand. Like, I mean, thinking it's like, you know, people debate the Second Amendment and all this stuff, and if you own a gun or whatever, but all cops have a gun. You know, like all of those agents, they do have guns. You know what I mean? And like that should, like, I would say that should give you pause to do anything rash while you're in their presence. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. Like, there should be a healthy amount of like respect to the authority,
fear and
fear
and respect. I don't know, you know, which kind of brings us to the third category, the tongue. A couple scripture verses here. It's interesting. Proverbs 18:17. The one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him. Matthew 12:36. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. Ouch. It is interesting in these scenarios how quickly everyone becomes an expert, right? Everyone in this last year has become an expert on tariffs and economic policy.
Yep.
We've become experts on foreign relations and when intervention is okay and isn't okay. We were experts in medicine during the COVID era. Yeah. We've now become experts on vaccines.
Yes.
We're experts on food pyramids. And now we're experts on like police training and like it's just really interesting to me how all of these processes there are very few people. I listened to an interview from Mike Pence a couple days ago, and they were pressing him on this, and he said something to the effect of, you know, any loss of life is tragic, and I know our ICE agents are good men and women that are doing a really hard job, and my understanding is there's an investigation into this matter, and I'm sure the investigation will be just and fair, and I await the results of the investigation. And I thought, wow, that's what a grown-up sounds like. Pretty amazing those exist, you know. There is a way you
He's a reasonable man. Right. I'm just going to throw that out there. Like, say what you want about Mike Pence, but he's a reasonable man.
Like, there is a way you could live in this world where you don't have to be the expert on how a police officer is supposed to respond to a moving vehicle, and you can like mourn the loss of life and be like, you know, our police are doing a hard job, and you know, I'm praying for those in the authority of the investigating team, and you know, that's not my lane. You can do that, actually. It's an amazing thing. But we just, our tongues just go off on social media in particular, but it's not really helpful in these times. I understand, like, it's kind of neat to live in an era where the average person actually does have a voice in the public square. I mean, that's the blessing that social media has provided. But man, this gets a lot of accusations get lobbed pretty quickly, and then like
there's so many proverbs and stuff about foolish people who speak too quickly. You know, it's like
It's like let's just give a hypothetical, right? Let's suppose you saw a video and you reached one conclusion, okay? And you just started spouting it out on social media. And then you saw another video the next day from a different angle that you were like, oh,
that changes it.
That changes it. Would you be willing to retract your former? And most people know you dig in your heels and you're done. And this Proverbs.
And most people would say yes, and most people would not.
Yes. Yeah. But that's the point of the Proverbs passage. The one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him. It's like, okay, like there's no way to not watch that video and not have feelings, some very strong feelings, and some opinions about was it justified or not. Like I don't know if there's a way to. We can't just be completely neutral observers that watch something like that tragic, and have no emotional response.
Yeah.
But
I think part of it is we have over relied on social media to process what we're thinking.
Yeah.
And people end up using social media to process, and then people take it as truth. Like, honestly, like with this kind of stuff, if our listeners are wondering, like when I see you, me and you will chat about it. And we agree on many things. But sometimes you'll be like, well, I actually saw it this way. And sometimes I'll tell you, actually, I think I saw it this way. And you know what? It's really helpful to have like a real
conversation,
life person with a real conversation. And I think a lot of times people just like we've over relied on social media for our interactions with people, and they just throw stuff on Twitter and throw stuff or X and throw stuff on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And it's like, no, go outside and go talk to someone someone about it. I find you'll probably be able to process it better. And guess what? You'll probably, as you're typing your post, you just work yourself into a tizzy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
when you're with someone, it's more measured. You hear someone else's point of view. You get immediate feedback. You don't get caught in your own bubble in your own mind.
Yep.
I don't know. Go talk to a real person. Go call someone up. Go talk to a real person about it.
Yeah, there's a reason the wise counselor sometimes advises her clients, hey, I want you to type up an email to this person and then delete it and never, ever, ever send it.
Right.
There's we have turned social media almost into the counseling chair.
Yeah.
Where we are like publicly venting and processing all of our unformed thoughts and emotions. It's like, maybe it's not the best place to do that.
For anyone.
Maybe have like a real human being you go talk to. And look, I understand this. It's an upsetting video. Someone dies in this video. This is an upsetting thing to watch. And depending even more on your background, there are reasons it can be more upsetting on one way or another, on the driver's side or the cop side, on the woman's side or the man's side. If you're someone, that your relative was a cop or you lost a loved one as a cop, and you're coming to this with this kind of this one piece of emotional baggage, so to speak. If you feel like if you find yourself identifying with one way or another with Renee Good, because of maybe you've been on the side of what you deem to be an unjust attack by law enforcement or people in authority, or you've experienced abusive authority. You come to it with another piece, and again, there's no way to not kind of emotionally respond to this. I'm just saying, emotionally respond first with another human being, not on social media.
Right.
That brings us to the last piece, the truth. A couple of verses here. Ephesians 4:25. Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. Proverbs 12:17. Whoever speaks the truth gives honest evidence, but a false witness utters deceit. as Christians, we're to be people of the truth.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how quickly narratives form in these things. Mm-hmm. And we're just saying, be on the narrative of the truth.
Yeah.
Even if that doesn't fit the narrative of a side.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, you know, I was telling you this, it's been astounding to me. My liberal friends and my conservative friends on Facebook all post these like huge, you know, multi-paragraph, 10-paragraph stories about this woman, Renee. And my liberal friends, it's always this sob story about how she was a mother and active, you know, member in her community, and pulls out all of these like, you know, snippets of different laws about why it's not why it wasn't a justified shooting. And at the end, there's only one conclusion.
Right.
Unjustified. And my conservative friends, same exact thing. Do you know she lost custody of 2 of her other children because she was a terrible mother? And she fled the U.S. when Trump got, elected, and only moved to Minnesota just to stir up trouble. Here are my snippets of these laws. Absolutely justified. 10 out of 10. You must be an idiot.
Right.
If you
look at the bottom, and it's the Chat GPT prompt that says, "Would you like me to also add?" You know?
Yeah. And it's funny. It's funny because the reason those posts exist is to get engagement with the initial poster's post. They know because whatever narrative you have internalized for yourself about our country and about yourself, you immediately hang on to one of those two. Mm-hmm. And I'm not exempt from that. Mm-hmm. I know which one, when I read, I initially am like, absolutely, absolutely, it's that
it's
one.
Clear. Yeah.
And I have to stop and ask myself, is there any truth in this? Is this written by AI? Like, are there any facts here on both sides? You know, because I know what I want to believe. Mm-hmm. I know what my opinion is. Mm-hmm. But we are people who know the truth from the gospel and from God's word. But we're also people as Christians who need to learn to be wise and discern the truth in situations like this.
Yes.
And I think there is something to, it's okay to share your opinion and all this stuff, but if there is some gray area where you just don't know what the facts actually are, you know what? I know this is going to sound crazy. You don't have to post something. You don't have to share something.
Whoa.
You know? Once again, I'm going to tell you my opinion, and you're probably going to laugh because it's probably going to lean on the conspiracy theory side. Apparently, that's what people know me for, you know?
This is a inside joke from the Elder and Deacon Christmas party. You know if you were there.
But, you know, I don't share a lot on social media because at one point, it's like, what actually happened? Mm-hmm. There's all these narratives thrown out there that claim to be the truth.
Yep.
And whatever narrative you have internalized, this is something for you that's really important. You have internalized a narrative about the things you believe in your life. You're immediately going to cling on to one of these narratives and just assume, of course, that has to be true.
We are storytellers by nature. And so we often do look to fit events into stories.
Yep.
That's how we make sense of the world around us, right? There's a story that so like just to throw it out there, right? To let's take Donald Trump, for example. I just picked a non-controversial figure that we could just briefly talk about, you know.
I've never even heard of him.
But yeah, just he's a real estate developer in the New York area.
Oh, the guy from Home Alone 2.
Yeah, he was in Home Alone 2, and he started this Celebrity Apprentice TV show on NBC. Right, the story you tell is the threat to democracy is a narrative.
Yeah.
The the return to the golden era is a narrative, right? Those are two like totally different narratives. And there are groups of people that find a way to fit everything that happens into that narrative. Okay. We don't just do that with Donald Trump. We do that with all of life. We're storytellers.
Yeah.
And so we often make sense of events by placing them into a larger context of a story. And so just be aware of the story you're telling yourself, right? Because that's the filter with which you observe the events around you.
Honestly, we talk about this a lot when we hear two different sides of a story. It's like, let's take the most extreme versions that we hear, and it's probably somewhere in the middle, right? Yeah. But our culture is like really hard. It's really hard for us to get there. We're people of extremes. We talked a lot about that on our podcast, and I think it's just like we should not promote language that just allows shootings just to happen all the time, right? Like, you hear some commentators that are like 10 out of 10. The agent should have shot or whatever. Right. And then you have people that are like 0 out of 10, it should be shot. And I want to say this too. Like, I think some of like the fascism language used on conservatives and police is really unhelpful. I'll just go ahead and throw that out because like if most of those ICE agents are just doing their jobs, like, and people are calling them fascist, then immediately temperature is already at 200 and it only takes a little bit for this to happen. It's just really unhelpful, right? And I personally know someone who works in this area, and like I will defend him that this is a good man. Yeah, you know what I mean. And so like it's unhelpful, that kind of language, to talk about our officials and stuff that way, because we don't live in a fascist country, right?
It's like, and this is where the tongue and the truth come together. It's like, okay, if we go backwards, and the image and the sword does all kind of come together. There have been really unhelpful, dehumanizing rhetoric regarding immigrants in our country. And there have been really unhelpful, dehumanizing rhetoric around police and law enforcement in our country. You could point to pieces of evidence of both. Yeah. And
I'll give an example from the right side that I've seen recently. There's some like pretty famous online pastor, I forgot his name, that's been like pushing this like interracial marriage is sinful. You know what I'm talking about? We got to do another podcast on that. And I'm like, what gracious. Are you? And if you're a listener being like, I don't know any conservatives that say, I'm like, this is like in the reformed camp,
falling off his rocker,
and he's out there being like, interracial marriages should not happen. Yeah. And it's like, whoa, dude, are you serious? Yeah. And I'm giving that example to say it does happen on both sides.
Yeah, and I think like, the painting of all immigrants, or even all illegal or undocumented, depending on your preferred, title, with one brush, they are all the same. Anytime you get into the they rhetoric, you're in dangerous territory, right? So we've seen examples of they rhetoric when it comes to immigrants. We've seen examples of they rhetoric when it comes to police and law enforcement. And that kind of language inflames people. And so there's no way, when you think about a larger story, larger picture, you don't this moment didn't happen in a vacuum, right? It happened with that kind of stuff going on. Yeah. And so when we speak to each other in this way, and then I would say, like, my heart for a lot of leaders, and I can give examples on both sides in this podcast. I'm not going to, because I don't think it would be helpful. But
are you controlling your tongue?
Wow. Yeah, I'm trying to be an example of controlling my tongue. But I want to say, do better. Like, your constituents deserve more than this. Yeah. Your constituents deserve more than for you to have this. Be measured.
People know, politicians know that most people, the normal curve of people, are going to vote a certain way. Yeah. And it's actually the extremes that tip the scales. Right. And that's why they promote, like, a lot of politicians, obviously not everyone, do stoke the fires
Yeah.
of like the extremes.
Yeah, it's just really unhelpful.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like we should be people dedicated to the truth. As we tell the truth, we need to watch our tongues. We need to submit to our governing authorities in the proper way and remind ourselves that every human being is an image bearer of God, and that includes the people with whom you disagree the most.
Yeah.
So talk about that person you disagree with like a human being that has a soul that's eternal, because that's what they are.
Yeah. And I'd add too, you know, like I was talking to a friend yesterday, like, because people are so extremes, it's gotta be, well, absolutely, like, ICE agent made zero mistakes, did everything right.
Yeah.
ICE, you know, Renee, you know, this protester did everything right. Zero mistakes.
Yep.
And it, you know, I'll lay my cards out there. This is an opinion, I'm not making a truth claim. From the videos I've seen and what I've read, I think I was talking to a buddy yesterday, and we were both saying, we think it's a justified shooting that could have been avoided. You take all the facts together.
That's an interesting phrase there.
You know,
interesting
it's like, if this little thing changed from her side or his side, probably didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But because he got hit, it's justified. But there's a lot of positioning things or timing of things that probably could have avoided the whole situation.
Yeah.
Why can't we have a measured statement?
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing I was thinking about too is it's easy to, you know, we're blame shifters and finger pointers, and it's easy to be like, see, Republican MAGA's fault, or see, like, liberal Democrats' fault. And really, it's like, we have to be people who first step in with the truth to say, you know what the problem in the world is? Sin. Starting with me.
That's good.
And to understand, these are two people in this situation that were made in the image of God. These are also two people who are sinners.
Yeah.
In desperate need of the grace of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to recognize that.
That's
we have to recognize the main problem is not a political party. It's not an ideology. It's sin that exists in my heart and your heart too.
Yeah.
And that we are all in desperate need of the gospel.
That's good. Yeah. One thing I'd add to that is I found myself, watching this angle, watching that angle, and being like, I don't know. Like that's where I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not on the investigative team.
Yeah.
And this is like a really important thing for your like mental health is you have to, there's a lot of brokenness in this world, and you have to guard what destroys you on the inside. And part of it has to be, what can I control? Okay. So there's an overly passive way to think about this that's unhealthy, which is like, look, I'm just going to stay in my lane and not do anything. Well, if that happened, some of the great changes, William Wilberforce never would have confronted slavery, right, if that happened.
Right.
So one thing to think about is, like, if you're worked up about this, right, which is understandable, is there something you can do? Okay. Would you like a law passed? Would you like a reform done? Right.
Right.
Can you write a senator or call a congressman or whatever? So is there something I can do? Yes or no? If yes, and you feel led to do it, then go do it. Like, channel that energy to actually do something. If no, it's okay for you to be like, I hear there's an investigation going on, and I'm going to pray that justice comes as a result, and just leave it there.
Yeah.
And you have an opinion, that's fine. But if you allow it to eat you alive, while at the same time feeling like I can't do anything, that will destroy you from the inside.
Yeah.
And so, as you feel led and as you're able, you should work within the system that's set up. Like,
because
but
the
if you
opposite
can't,
of that
then,
is thinking, I'm the only one that can change this.
Right.
And so I got to go whatever side you're on.
Take up battle.
Yeah. And it's like, no, dude. It's like, yeah.
And the funny thing is, it's like, honestly, whatever side you're on, if you took your social media post and actually sent an email to your congressman, like that would make a bigger difference than your post.
Right.
But the post feels like it's this, it feels like we're doing something, but you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to watch out for.
Yeah. And I would say a good way to break away from your narratives a little bit is to ask a simple question. Like in this instance, ask a reverse situation or someone in your family.
Yeah.
What would I think if, like, honestly, if this was my brother?
Yeah.
Brother as the cop or brother as the
Yep.
protester?
Yep.
What would I think, like, what if this was at a MAGA rally and it was an ICE agent, it was just a police officer?
Yep.
I think will tell you a lot about if you are being controlled by your narrative or
That's a great point. That's a great point. Well, we usually close with our of the month segment, but I thought it'd be fun to close with our celebrating 200 episode segment
crazy.
Of the 200th episode. So, man, I'm like, this podcast goes back to, I guess,
October 2019. I remember because our first one was Halloween. His first
That's
when I first
right.
got here. Yeah.
Tyler Linderman had kind of started this. He had some kind of vision and idea for a podcast, and the two of us had recorded, like, it was more like internal, like about the church type of stuff. And then I think you came on with kind of a separate podcast idea that was more like this.
Yeah.
A lot has changed.
Yeah.
In 200 episodes.
Yeah.
Couple guys talking about stuff. Was that from the beginning?
It was. I think it surprised you. It might not have been episode 1, but it was in the first 5, I think.
I think Monday Musings was the beginning. Like, we landed on that name. But then there's another Monday Musings in the App Store, so it has to be Monday Musings Culture and Theology.
Right.
But it's been fun.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it.
It's funny because, like, we change over time. My core beliefs haven't changed, but
I'm sure there's plenty that I've said that I would disagree with now.
Yeah, like the Santa stuff.
Right. Well, I disagree with myself every year. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And that's the thing. We're all learning and growing, and we appreciate you guys learning and growing with us.
Yeah.
And hopefully this has been really helpful for our listeners just to just engage, to think deeper. And then really we hope that you have engaged with God more deeply.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
It's been an interesting format because I know, like, there are some people who would say, hey, you pastors need to stay in your lane. You shouldn't even be talking about this.
Yeah.
And my problem with that is, well, we need help thinking Christianly about the world we live in.
That's what the point of this
and
podcast.
Living Christianly in the world we live in. So if pastors just cede that territory to online social media influencers, that seems like a recipe for disaster. At the same time, if every time something like this happens, I cancel my expository series to do a look what happened last week and how to think about it as a Christian, I think that becomes like an exhausting, unhealthy, like, church cadence. So I think what's been great about the podcast from, like, a pastoral perspective is it allows us to make Sunday mornings the exposition of the word, largely verse by verse, book by book through the Bible, but also have a format to equip our members to think Christianly about the world in which we live. And we're not saying our way of thinking is the only Christian way of thinking, but hopefully it contributes in a positive way to the development and conversation of our members. And has also been really fun to hear a lot of feedback from people who aren't our members.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's been a fun
Some
outreach.
who've showed up to the church because of it.
Yeah.
And I say praise God.
Yeah. So thanks for listening to 200 episodes. Here's to another 200. Talk to you soon.